I think it's fair to say that this is a lose-lose trade war. Both US consumers and also Canadian and Mexican households stand to lose. The Tax Policy Center has just put out an analysis suggesting that after tax US household income could fall by 1% as a result of these tariffs. That's a cost of about $1,000 to the average US household. So it's not a huge hit for American households, but it is likely to make them worse off. And then for Canada and Mexico, because the US is by far their biggest trading partner, they're even more exposed to these tariffs. It's going to make it harder for firms from those countries to export to the US. And also the retaliatory tariffs that are now going to be put in place will increase costs for consumers in those countries. So I think you'd see in percentage terms even bigger effects on Canada and Mexico than you will in the US. To be honest, I think it is very hard to find any kind of economic rationale for the tariffs on Mexico and Canada. These are the US's biggest trading partners. In some sense, they're also its closest allies. And it is a little bit of a mystery what Trump is trying to achieve with these tariffs. And on the household front, there's a number of effects. The most obvious one is, say, if I am a US household that imports or that consumes Canadian maple syrup, that maple syrup is going to become more expensive, and that's a direct price increase that households will face. But also, if I buy goods that are domestically produced in the US, but that are produced using inputs from Canada, the price of those goods is also going to go up. So for households, really, there's many different ways you can be exposed, but all these effects lead to higher prices. And then finally, we can also think about households as workers, and the kind of workers that will be exposed will be those who are employed by the firms that are kind of now facing these tariffs. And it's likely that some of those firms will have to kind of cut back on their employment as a result of becoming less competitive and facing higher production costs. I think there are kind of two major possibilities. One is what happened with the US-China trade war during Trump's first term as president, which is both the US and China increased tariffs, and then those tariffs have stayed there, and kind of they are now kind of a permanent feature of the trade landscape. So one possibility is that the higher tariffs are here to stay. The more hopeful possibility will be that governments realize the costs that these tariffs may impose and try to reach a negotiated solution to remove the tariffs. So I think the Canadian and Mexican governments will be trying to talk with their US counterparts and work out kind of what kind of a deal could we reach that would allow both sides to remove the tariffs. I mean, there's still obviously huge amounts of uncertainty at this point. We don't know exactly how Mexico and China will retaliate. We don't know whether there will be a quick negotiated solution and the tariffs are gone by the end of this week. And then perhaps most importantly, we don't know whether this is a limited action just focused on these countries, or whether this is the start of a broader trade war that Trump intends to engage in with the rest of the world and with the UK and Europe, for example. So there will be, I think, a lot of nervous diplomats in London and in Brussels today wondering if we're next to face Trump tariffs.